Gamers, today we got a video and I'm here to talk about a ladder and tournament win rates and what do they mean. So obviously I like to do Civ tier list, which are, you know, my opinion and all that. Everyone has their own like buds. But I wanted to discuss ladder and tournament win rates and show you guys the discrepancy that we see at each level, and then in the opinions of players too. So I kind of want to like give my take on stats and statistics and all that. So if we look at all rank levels, this is what it looks like. This is all games since the latest patch, since July 20th patch. This is all the civilizations. So you have Ottoman and Mongol at the top, then Abbasid, then Rus, English, French, Delhi, HRE, Malian, and China. Now, what does this mean? Not much, because obviously all ranks, that's a massive range, right? From bronze to like high Conqueror, those are like very different things, very different games. Now, the one thing that you can see is which civs are the most noob friendly or the easiest civs. And the way you can see that is through games played. So if you look, English, for example, is one of the basic civs, one of the one-star civs, and it has 171,000 games, which is a lot. Compared to the lowest played civ, which is Delhi, it has let's say 32,000. So English and French are the two most played civ by far. And then it's HRE, which is kind of like the next easy civ, the next one-star civ, because you can just kind of make units and go. There's not much to it at lower levels. So I would say those three civs are probably the easiest and the most like noob-friendly civs to go. There's not much complicated mechanics. It's pretty straightforward. And then the other civs, even though some are doing better, obviously they have a lot less games played. So let's look at Gold League, for example. Bronze and Silver, there's not that many players there, so I'm not going to take a peek in there. And what we see is a little bit weird and a little bit funny. So at the Gold level, which is actually surprising to me, Abbasid has the highest win rate. Mongol and Ottoman to me make sense, and Rus, because in Gold League, people don't have a lot of APM, they make a lot of mistakes. And like Mongol can do a tower rush, they can do trade. A lot of people don't really know how to deal with either of those, so I can see that. Ottoman, it auto-produces units, right, from military schools, so I can see Ottoman doing well because of that. And then you have Rus that has knights and has Kremlin, which helps you a lot with defending, right? And even Delhi got a 50.5% win rate. And the funny thing is, these basic civs, which usually in the past had the highest win rate, like French and English would usually have like the highest win rate in lower leagues, are not, I mean, they're doing 49.6%, which is pretty balanced, but they're not at the top. But even at Gold League, you see a thing that is actually pretty impressive. I would say anything within 2 plus 3 minus 3 or plus 2 minus 2%, I would say that means that the game is in a pretty good spot. So to see this at Gold League, like to see the highest win rate is 51.9 and the lowest is 47.9, I think that's actually really impressive, because I actually expected bigger discrepancy there. Obviously you can see China is at the bottom, and one of the reasons why I think China is at the bottom is not necessarily because it's a bad civ, but because it's probably one of the hardest civs to play. I would probably say it's maybe second hardest civ. There's a lot of stuff you need to do, so it kind of makes sense in a way that in lower leagues, the balance is not so much on the units, it's more so how easy the civ is to play, right? So if we scroll up, we go Platinum, we see a big increase in Ottoman all of a sudden, and Ottoman overall has the highest win rate, right? So we see a big increase. On the bottom is still China. Other civs are more or less the same. You see Rus, Delhi, Abbasid, which was the top 5 earlier. We're gonna check Diamond. Rus is suddenly getting higher because, I mean, Rus is the best civ right now compared, like, if you ask any pro player, they will tell you that Rus is the best civ by far, and everyone in tournaments is banning Rus. So the higher skill level makes sense that the Rus is doing better and better. And then China even doing worse. And I think the reason why China is suddenly doing worse even though the players are, they are better, right? Diamonds are better than platinums and golds. I think that the skill needed to play China is a lot higher than the skill needed to punish China. So these all other civs are better, including China, right, player-wise, but the amount you need to punish China and to put pressure on them is a lot less effort than for the China to defend it. So it makes sense, to me at least, that the China win rate is still not looking hot. Other civs, I mean, again, more or less you see the same top 5 actually as gold and as platinum. But overall, the civs are looking pretty good, even in diamond. Maybe China has a bit of a low win rate. It is what it is. And now we look at a Conqueror. And if you notice here, there's a new metric added. This is Conqueror 4. And I'll talk about it in a second. But let's look at the Conqueror level. Suddenly, Mongol has almost 4% extra win rate. And then suddenly Malian jumped up, Rus is still there, Abbasid. China went from 45% in diamond to 49% all of a sudden. And this is, I did not actually like pre-look this stats or anything like that. So China has increased win rate because I think the jump from like platinum or gold to Conqueror or even diamond to Conqueror is quite big. And this is for all Conqueror, right? This is not Conqueror 1. This is Conqueror 1, 2, and 3, and 4 combined. Or basically all the Conqueror players, right? So you can see that people like are much higher in skill level. They're able to actually play China to their potential. And the very basic civs are actually at the bottom. And Delhi is at the bottom too. I think Delhi is low on the ladder win rate, or lowest in Conqueror on win rate, is because it's very one-dimensional. And you kind of know what Delhi is going to do. You know what to expect. English and French and HRE are like the basic civs. But because they're basic at the same time, they are very straightforward to play against. So people kind of know what to expect. And these other civs on the top are a bit more complicated. There's more to them, right? And Mongol is the civ that probably snowballs the most. Like once you start trading, or if your Tau rush goes well, the game can snowball quite a bit. Same with Ottoman and Feudal. And now if we look, Conqueror 4 and above. What rating is this, Cascade? What rating is Conqueror 4 and above? 1.7k plus. Okay. Now it's not top 50. So 1.6 is Conqueror 3. 1.7 is top 125. Okay. This is win rate for top 125. Now before I click it, I want to say that even a difference between a rank 125 and top 5 is worlds apart. Worlds apart. Like if top 5 player plays against rank 125 10 times, I guarantee you the top 5 player will win 10 times. Okay? I recently did like whenever I do matches versus rank 50s or 40s, out of 20 games, I probably win all 20 or maybe 19 if I fuck up something, right? So the difference, even from 1.7 to top, is massive. So let's look. But obviously you can't do like top 30 stats because then it's like too few games. And what do we see? Like I said, the higher the skill, the higher, players are ranked, China benefits from it, right? The lower the skill, China is going to do worse and worse because it is the hardest or second hardest civ to play. It's very, very complicated. There's a lot of stuff to manage. So I'm not really surprised that China is doing well. I am surprised it's 57%. French is at the bottom together with English, and this is the same thing I said for Conqueror. They're very straightforward. I actually don't think that they're necessarily awful. Like, I don't think they're necessarily bad, but they do have some bad matchups. And this is where matchups and balance come into play. In gold level, you don't look at the balance. You look at how easy or complicated stuff is to do and execute because they're not playing to their full potential. I would say at the top 125 player rank, you can actually look at the balance of the game. But even that is skewed by who is playing against who, right? If I'm playing against rank 125 is rank 1 on the ladder. Does that mean that my civ is favored, or did I just beat him because I'm better, right? But it still gives you some kind of stats. So I'm going to go and just kind of give you my opinion on why some civs have that win rate and why, you know, they're doing well. For example, China has 57% win rate. It has bad win rate against Mongol, which Mongol is good on against China on maps where you can trade. But Mongol doesn't play on every map, right? It only usually play Mongol maps you can trade. So even though China has 42% win rate, if you were to play Mongol versus China on every map that we have on the ladder map pool, I guarantee you the win rate would be closer to 50, or maybe even it would be closer to 50. I still think it'd be Mongol favored, but Mongol is like exclusively played on trade maps, whereas China, you can play it on way more maps. China versus Malian. This also makes sense. One of the best civs against Malian is China, because if you survive like the early 15 minutes, like your units are just way better. And Malian is a very strong like tempo-based civ, and tempo-based civs in general don't do too great against China because they can defend really, really well. Then they have Rus and French, which is actually interesting that they have bad win rate against French, because in my opinion China can do pretty decent against French, but it has a lot better win rate against Rus because it's like a more boom civ, and then all these aggro civs it does pretty well. I'm surprised about 70% win rate against Abbasid, because I think that matchup is actually pretty even, like both sides can win. So anyway, I'm not going to dissect every single matchup in the game. You have Mongol. I think Mongol is very easy to snowball with as a civ. Like once you start trading, if the opponent doesn't stop it, you're in a lot of trouble. And at the top level, it's even harder to punish Mongol trade. So if you fail in any way, it just kind of snowballs, and then if you manage to kind of deny some of the trade and go more late game, then Mongol starts dropping off because their castle age is not that good compared to some of the other civs. Malian is pretty good. I mean, no real surprise there. It does pretty well. A lot of people still think Malian is OP. I'm not so sure anymore. I think Malian is okay, but not broken or anything like that. Now, this is an interesting one. Rus. So you might be wondering, why does Rus have 52% win rate, right, when it's broken? If we say that it's broken, why is Rus on 52% win rate? Why is it not at 60 or 65%? Do you guys know the answer? Nobody in top 20 plays Rus because it's always permabanned, so nobody practices it at all. Nobody. So this is, it's 52% win rate, excluding at least top 20 players. At least. Like, even when I play ladder, no one plays Rus because it's always banned in tournaments. So it's pointless practice to play Rus when you know it's going to be permabanned. So there's no point. Rus is great on water maps, it's great on hybrid maps, it's great on open maps. So people just don't bother playing it, and it still has 52% win rate without literally top 20, 30 players even playing it, which, you know, they can execute it to like the full potential. Even though it still has a lot of games, like I said, top players are not playing it. Like, now, Ottoman is an interesting one because here it has exactly 50%. And Ottoman is a weird one because a lot of the top players don't play it at all because they don't think it's very good. Some players think it's good, and I think a lot of people are trying new stuff with Ottoman these days. I've seen people even trying trade, they're trying 2TC. So Ottoman is kind of going through some changes. Maybe it has some potential counters, but the funny part is Ottoman versus French, it says it has good win rate against French, but a lot of the top players think the opposite, like French is good into Ottoman. So there's a lot of that, which again, like I said, a top 10 players or 20 to top 125 is like a different game almost to what's good and what's not. Then we got HRE, I mean, at 50-ish%. We got Delhi at 48.6. We do see Delhi played a lot more compared to overall. Like if you compare earlier, Delhi had like 30-something thousand games and English had 170,000. But you can see Delhi here is a lot closer to some of the other civs in terms of how many games are played. Abbasid is played quite a bit. Abbasid is considered like a safe civ, and you can play it on a lot of maps. It doesn't really have any counters, in my opinion. Like, there's no civs where I'm like, oh shit, I'm playing Abbasid versus this. It's really bad. So, yeah. Then you got English and French. Now, these civs, at the top level, English is almost exclusively played on hybrid maps because of the man-at-arms. So it doesn't really get played too much on full land maps because most civs that are played on land maps are boom civs. And once you defend like the very first English push, you just get so far ahead in boom. And if both players go like multiple TCs, English takes a lot longer for their economy to kick in, and usually the other civs can kind of overwhelm them. And knight civs are also very good into English, which there are now 4, right? There's French, there's Rus, there's Mongol, and there's Malian. And all those civs do really well against English, so... And they're all played on land maps, so I can imagine, yeah, that's the case. And then you have French. Like I said, there's been some attempts at Imperial Rushes recently, even in tournament games, but I think French is just, I don't think it's a bad civ. I don't think it's like, oh, it's 44%, it's bad. We will see it a lot in the tournament. A lot of people still like playing French. It's just that it's very predictable, kind of like English. So after we went through that, you can see, so what does this mean, right? You cannot just look at statistics, or not nothing, but you cannot just look at statistics and be like, okay, China is broken, I need to play China, right? If you're lowly, if you're gold, yeah, you can play China, but you're probably not going to do as well as you might think you would because it's strong, because it's hard to play. Does this mean that China and Mongol are the best 2 civs in the game? They're not, right? They're not. There are way better civs, so I don't think so. There's always reasons why X or Y is good or bad against things. And depending on which level you look at the game, you will get different results. I mean, you saw as we progressed in leagues, the win rates are changing, right? We went from China being at like 45 point something percent or 46 to now 57%. So, so molding about Rus OP, if you're not top 50, makes no sense. Well, I think molding about any OP, unless you're in top 50, it makes no sense, right? Because, like, I do agree with that because you're not losing because of balance, right? If you're losing in Gold League to a civ, you're not losing because that civ is broken. You're losing because that civ is easier to play, most likely, right? If that civ has a higher win rate, I mean. Not like every time you lose a game, you lost because your opponent has an easier civ. I mean, if a civ has a high win rate, in low leagues, it's probably because it's easier to play. And you should play, yeah, you should play what you like and what you love, right? That's the most important part, to have fun. Because no matter what civ you play, you can get to Conqueror, guys. Like that, if you play one civ, you can literally get to Conqueror with any civ. Alright? So, let's look at the tournament statistics. Now, we just had first week of Call to Arms, the EGC tournament, the $15,000 tournament that lasted 2 days. Well, this week, but we have next week and next week coming. But only each player, so there, okay, hold on. There's 48 players, and every player has played 2 best of 5s, okay? On Saturday and Sunday. So 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday for a total of 2 best of 5s. And these are the stats for the tournament. So we're gonna go through those because the results are completely different. All right. So let's look. Number 1 civ is Delhi. Now, a lot of people, and I've seen it in my chat. I'm not talking about core, but I've seen it in my chat. People are like, "Yo, Delhi is good again." So every player has played two best of 5s, which means they had 2. So each player had 2 choices to lock in Delhi for a potential of 96 games, right? That's what I meant. So if all players pick Delhi, there would be 96 Delhi players. Not Delhi games, sorry. Only 18 Delhi games, right? So what does that mean? Is Delhi OP? Is Delhi good? Because it has 67% win rate. Delhi was not picked a lot. It got picked 18 times, and I would say it probably got banned maybe 2-3 times, right? Over the weekend. Maybe 2-3 times. That's it. So what does that mean? It means that Delhi is a good civ. If suddenly every player started picking Delhi, this win rate would sink, right? Because what this means, looking like at everything, including bans, including picks, including maps, this means that the players that are picking Delhi are either like, that's their civ, like that they specialize in Delhi, or they really like Delhi, and that's why they're playing Delhi, right? And usually those civs that not many people play have players that are much better at that civ than other players, so they do better. Now, if you look at another example of Rus, for example, right? It has a 57% win rate. That's OP, right? But it has 7 games played. Do you know why it has 7 games played? Not because nobody's picking it, but because it is permanently banned by everyone. Everyone. I guarantee you, out of however many series were played this weekend, I guarantee you that maybe 2 series or 3 series did not have a Rus ban. Or actually 7 of them, right? Did not have a Rus ban because he got picked immediately. I guarantee you all the other were bans. So looking at these stats, obviously, if you look at the numbers, you're going to say, well, Rus is 3rd best. It's not. It's best by far. It's not even close. It is best by far. It is the one civ that's perma getting banned by everyone. Doesn't matter if you're ranked 48 or rank 1 player. No one's allowing it. So who is playing it? Well, people that are not banning Rus either don't know, which is surprising to me if they don't know, or maybe they think, oh, if I let that guy play Rus, I can defeat it because that guy is not great with Rus, and then that guy picks Rus and either wins or loses, right? Then you have Mongols. And again, Mongol, 64% win rate, so what's up with them? Mongol is actually one of the most banned civs as well in this tournament. I would say, I don't have the stats. I'm not sure if Angelica is going to do stats again, but I would assume Mongol is 2nd most banned civ, or Malian. It has to be 2nd or 3rd most banned civ in the tournament. Why are they banned? I'll show you why they're banned. Is Mongol broken? No. I think Mongol is a good civ. I don't think it's a bad civ. So why is it perma-banned almost? Or not almost. It's banned like half of the series. It's because of maps like Canal, maps like Frisian Marches, maps like Golden Heights, maps like Prairie, maps like Volcanic Island. And now you might be like, but that's a lot of maps. Yeah, they're getting banned and they're getting picked a lot because of the map pool. Which is why their pick rate is not as high, even though they're not getting banned every single game. Sometimes the players are playing on maps like Lipany, Dry Arabia, Holy Island, Rocky Canyon, and Mountain Clearing. Some people have that map pool in their match, and nobody picks Mongols, nobody bans Mongols. But these maps, Mongol is very, very strong because of the reason why Mongol was always strong. Because of Dark Age Spearman Rush, they can dominate in Dark Age and they get advantage from then, and they just kind of snowball. So Mongol, is it a broken civ? No. Is it a really, really good civ for this tournament? Yes. For this specific map pool? Yeah, it is. And that's why it's probably going to continue to get banned and played. So it's a very, very strong civ, in my opinion. And a lot of people are like, wanting to play it, but like I said, there's been a lot of bans. And if you look, Mongol is not even close to being the most played civ because it's getting banned. Rus is the least played, then Delhi, and then you have Mongols as the 3rd lowest played civ. But again, if you don't know the reasoning behind it, you might think, oh, that's kind of weird. Why is nobody playing it? Because it's banned. And Delhi, remember, with no bans, got only 18 games played. Right. Next, we got Abbasid, which is a civ that actually received very few bans. I heard few people banning it, like maybe 3-4 people banned it, but it has 55 games played. 55 games played, and is the most played civ in the tournament so far. I don't know a single player that like just doesn't play Abbasid. Everyone's playing Abbasid. Abbasid is a really good civ. Do I think it's OP or underpowered? I think it's just a really solid civ. Like it has a lot of the good maps. It's usually played on open maps. It plays well into like some of the more aggressive civs, which is why people are picking it. And I would assume that people are going to continue to pick it, and I don't think people are going to ban it more because it's played that much, right? Because Abbasid has a lot of like weaknesses you can abuse early on and attack it and so on. Then you have civs like English, which we would see quite a different... This is the interesting part. So if Rus wasn't OP, right, or the strongest civ at the top level, let's say no one was banning Rus, I would think that English and Mongol would be the most banned civs. Because English is also, just like Mongol, used a lot on hybrid maps. But this is the tricky part. Mongol counters English on hybrid maps. So instead of banning English, people ban Mongol and then pick English on hybrid maps, which is why you see so many games played. I guarantee you most of these are probably, I would say 35 to 40 games of this are on hybrid maps and not land maps, because that's their thing, that's their specialty, that's why people play it. Then we got Chinese. Now Chinese, just like there's a skill difference between like, you know, lower rated like gold players and Conqueror players, there's also massive skill differences in how well people can play China. So I am not surprised that China has a high pick rate because it is a good civ, but it doesn't have like over 50% win rate because things can go south really fast with China. Then we got French, which is one of the aggressive civs. At 47, we got Ottoman, which a lot of people have been telling me Ottoman has been popping off. Ottoman is back. I mean, people are playing it, right? It has 39 picks, so it's what, 4th, 5th most played civ. So people are playing it, but 46% win rate, so not doing amazing. And I think, you know, for obvious reasons, civs that are played on like land maps are more indicative of how accurate their win rates are, because Mongol is played on every map, but mostly on hybrid maps, which they are the strongest civ at. So they have a high win rate, yeah, because they're the strongest civ on the hybrid maps, right? So when they go through, AK don't get banned, they usually do really well. So I would say all these civs like this, they're like looking pretty balanced in terms of win rates. And probably English win rate gets boosted quite a bit by the hybrid maps as well. And now this is the interesting one. Malians. Now, let me tell you, before the tournament, there has been a lot of complaining on Twitch, behind the scenes, about Malians and how broken it is. But Malian is only played on land maps, pure land maps, the maps that the Malians is strong at. That's where Malian is played on. But Malians has 42% win rate, which is very interesting. Now, I will say Malian received a lot of bans. Like I said, Mongol and Malian are probably 2nd or 3rd on the most banned civs, which is why you see such low play rate, because a lot of players consider them too strong, right? Right behind Rus. But Malian is actually not doing well at all. At all. And Rus only has 7 games, but Malian has 26. And the win rate ain't looking good. It's almost, I mean, you know, a game or two, it could have been 50% win rate, but yeah. And then last but not least, HRE. Look how they butchered my boy. 40%. You animals. Stop playing HRE. Now, I'm a bit surprised by this, and I'll tell you why. So, HRE is, most players play it on Holy Island, which is kind of considered like a full water map, and hybrid maps. And that's kind of what most players use it for, and it's known for being good there. And it has a very high pick rate, 45 games, as you can see. It's the 2nd most picked civ, but actually it has the lowest win rate. And I find that very interesting. Maybe people have figured out like how to play against HRE on water. Maybe because there's been so many English and Mongol picks on hybrid maps that just beat HRE. I'm not really sure, but I'm a bit surprised to see them that low. Now let's look at the next thing, which is going to be the map win rates. And this is another very important thing to look at when you're looking at overall balanced and which civ is broken, which civ is okay, which civ sucks. So you can see, I said earlier, Abbasid is played a lot, and it's a very balanced civ, right? It's played on a lot of maps. Out of the, how many tournament maps? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Out of 11 maps, Abbasid is played on, I'm not going to count Prairie, 3, 4, 5, 6 on 7 maps. Like, that's pretty good. You don't play, there's no civ that's like played on every single map, right? So that's pretty good. It shows variety. You can play it on a lot of maps. Great. Same thing with China. Look at that. It's played on Holy Island the most, and you can see Abbasid is mostly picked on Lipany and Volcanic Island and Dry Arabia. Those are the 3 most played. Frisian Marches here and there. Holy Island for China is 20 games out of how many? Out of 39 games, 20 games are played on one map, right? Because that's what they're known for. And mountain clearing 4 times, and it's a 0-4. Now the funny thing is, does that mean that China sucks in mountain clearing? No. They probably played against HRE or English, which are the 2 most dominant civs in mountain clearing, and they lost. But China would destroy all the other civs, right? So that doesn't mean China is better mountain clearing. It just means there's better civs. And if you look, English is 5-1 and HRE is 3-2 on mountain clearing. We look at Delhi, and this is another thing that I said about Delhi win rate. While Delhi has a high win rate and it's doing well, it's only played on very, very few maps. Like, someone played it on Frisian Marches in regions, surprisingly. I don't think any top player played Delhi here. So Delhi is usually played on only Dry Arabia and Lipany. And that's it. So it's very predictable as well. Like, if you wanted, you could counter it. Like, if there's a player that plays Delhi a lot, he's probably going to play it on one of those 2 maps, right? Then we got English, pretty diverse, and as far as where you can play it, it's not really a surprise. You can, do really well with English on a lot of different maps, whether it's land and water or hybrid, whatever. I'm a bit surprised that on Holy Islands it's 0-2. Then you got French, again, usually played on only open maps, which you can see, Dry Arabia, regions, Frisian Marches, Lipany, and that's where, that's where the ship shines, not signs. We got HRE, also played a lot of maps, 4 Prairie games, 0-4. It's a destruction. Holy Island is the most played. Then you got Malians, which again played on Dry Arabia the most, followed by Lipany, where it's 0-4. Why is it 0-4? Does anyone know? It's 0-4 because what are the 2 most played civs in Lipany? Well, one is probably the biggest problem, and that is Abbasid. Abbasid is very good into Malian, and Delhi, I would say, is decent into Malian, so that's why Malian is fucking getting wrecked there. Because Malian should be played into other civs that it actually counters, right? Not be played into civs that it gets countered by. Then we got Mongols. I mean, Mongol is getting played everywhere. Like, if you can trade or it's a water map, you can play Mongol pretty much. And like Prairie, you can see the domination for Mongol. Then we got Ottoman, and everyone's playing it on regions, which I found very interesting. Because, I mean, even I played it on regions, right? But I didn't realize that many players play it on regions, because I don't see why it's such a good map for them. The funny part is, it would make more sense to pick Ottoman and Lipany to counter Delhi and Abbasid, but no one's doing that. Everyone's playing it on regions, which usually, like regions, you meet French, which French does well into Ottoman. So that's a lot of stuff you have to consider. You have to consider when playing, because I think maybe a lot of people are like, oh, the food is far away for my opponents, so if I put pressure on the map, I don't need as much food because of my landmark. I guess that's the thought process, but people don't think what civs they're gonna meet, and the civs that you meet are usually the aggro civs that do okay or good against Ottoman, which you can see in win rates. And then last but not least, I mean, Rus, it has 7 games played, so you can't really say much. And I'm not going to go through every player, but these are win rates by player for each civ. So you can see the players with no losses so far are Lenok, Puppypo, Marine Lord, Lucifer, Magic, Vortex, me, and Recon. And you can see almost everyone is playing Abbasid. A lot of people are playing China as well. Delhi, I played it twice, so 2 of the wins for Delhi are mine. And then HRE, that has 40% win rate, 2 of the wins are mine as well. So HRE would have even worse win rate if I didn't play it. Poor HRE. But yeah, so over time, you know, next weekend, obviously we'll see more games in the Call to Arms tournament, which if you're watching on YouTube, you should tune in. I think it starts at 5 p.m. CEST, 15 GMT on EGC TV stream. So there's going to be more games. But yeah, I always find stats really interesting to look at. And I always love trying to figure out a way, or reason rather, why that is, right? If a civ is doing well on a map where it's technically not a good map for that civ, why is it doing well? And then you figure out, oh, it's the matchups that people are getting and stuff like that. Or sometimes you just get complete like skill mismatches, right? And yeah, so I kind of wanted to go through that. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, I'll do one for next week as well. It's obviously going to be like, we can look at separate info, and then we can look at combined information as well. But yeah, do you think HRE is bad, or they're just underperforming? I think most people don't know how to play HRE well, because I still do really well with HRE. And I think HRE is very unique, and most people play civs that are very aggressive, and you just make units and you just go in feudal, and that's not how HRE plays. And I think when they try rushing castle, they just die. Because to play HRE, you need to practice HRE. To play French, you can practice, Rus, you can practice Mongol, because they play a similar way. That makes sense. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know what you thought. Let me know if you enjoyed this kind of video. Same thing on Twitch. And if you liked it, I'll do another one next week. Either way, YouTube gamers, thanks so much for watching. Check me out on Twitch. I'll probably be live right now. And then if you're watching on Twitch, let's keep going.